Or are you in the pockets? Are you in the pockets of those who have damaged the environment? Are you in the pockets, are you and your system in the pockets of those who destroy the environment?
I don't know if you as a head of state went to the COP in Dubai.
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. Do you know that Guyana has a forest forever that is the size of England and Scotland combined? A forest that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon, a forest that we have kept alive, a forest that we have kept alive.
Does that give you the right? Does that give you the right to release all of this carbon?
Does that give you the right to lecture us on climate change? I am going to lecture you on climate change because we have kept this forest alive that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon that you enjoy, that the world enjoy, that you don't pay us for, that you don't value, that you don't see a value in, that the people of Guyana has kept alive. I am not finished as yet. I am just not finished as yet, because this is the hypocrisy that exists in the world.
Hello everybody, let's talk about Guyana President Mohammed Irfaan Ali. Remember, the country was in the news few days ago when the ambassador from this country exposed the lies of White House spokesperson John Kirby on the American ceasefire resolution, which he said was a ceasefire resolution which was vetoed by China and Russia, but it took bold statement from Guyana ambassador to bust the lies of the White House. Now, Mohammed Irfaan Ali, who is the president of Guyana, gave an interview to BBC program called HardTalk presented by Stephen Sackur. Stephen Sackur is my former BBC colleague. As you know, I spent 12 years in the BBC working as the editor. That was one of my last roles. So I know Stephen Sackur and I know the program very well. But this particular episode of HardTalk is problematic in so many ways. And no wonder these certain clips of this interview have gone viral. One of the clips where Mohammed Irfaan Ali is losing his cool and giving a total dressing down to Stephen Sackur is going viral. The interview starts with the questioning, which is problematic in my eyes as a journalist. Stephen starts by pointing out to the newfound wealth, for Guyana, because as you know, Guyana has identified a huge area of, oil and gas reserves, and therefore the country has been drilling that, and it has positively impacted the overall GDP of the country. The country, in fact, is the fastest growing economy in the world. 2 years ago, their annual growth was about 64%. Last year, they grew by 38%. So clearly, this is a remarkable success story, in the world at the moment when even the most developed world like America and the UK and the EU are going through a prolonged period of economic crisis. So he started by saying that, look, you have got newfound wealth. Do you know how to use it wisely? I mean, who asked this kind of question? Anyway, watch it for yourself.
Mr. President, you lead a country which by many measures has the fastest growing economy in the world. It is down to you to ensure that this massive windfall your country has is used wisely and fairly.
I mean, what kind of mentality you have to ask these questions? It clearly shows that you haven't forgotten the fact that you used to rule this country. You haven't come out from this colonial mindset. That the second question was, again, along the same lines, that you have got wealth. Do you not think that this growth is going to overwhelm you?
Unbelievable transformation in your economy. In terms of your GDP, it's rising exponentially. 60% the year before last, 30% last year. No other country in the world is experiencing this. And it just seems to me that oil and gas and the revenues you're getting could overwhelm Guyana.
So both these questions were based on something that hasn't happened. I mean, clearly, according to Stephen Sackur, only the West knows, only the white people know how to deal with wealth, what do these black people or the developing countries know how to deal with newfound wealth? That was it. But the whole interview is very cringeworthy. I mean, if you have time, go watch it. If you're in the UK, you can watch it on iPlayer. If you are outside the UK, I think they might be on their website. I don't know how it works outside the UK. But do find out and watch it, because, it's cringeworthy, but nonetheless, it's an eye-opener. One bit which is now going viral is the bit where he questions the Guyanese president about the country's commitment to net zero and how the oil drilling exercise is going to negatively impact the environment. That's where he loses his cool. He lectures Stephen Sackur and he lectures the West, and he then goes on to ask the BBC presenter whether he is being propped up by certain vested groups, or whether he is being under the influence of certain lobby groups. Because the Guyanese president, not just Guyanese president, in fact, the world over, people are now fast realizing that these Western democracies are farce. These governments, their governments are chosen by lobby groups, their economies are run by lobby groups, and now the media, even the BBC, is no longer immune to the wrong influence of these lobby groups. Hence, this statement by Mohammed Irfaan Ali in his answer. Watch this.
Let's take a big picture look at what's going on here. Over the next decade, 2 decades, it is expected that there will be $150 billion worth of oil and gas extracted off your coast. It's an extraordinary figure, but think of it in practical terms. That means, according to many experts, more than 2 billion tons of carbon emissions will come from your seabed, from those reserves, and be released into the atmosphere. I don't know if you, as a head of state, went to the COP in Dubai.
Let me stop you right there. Do you know that Guyana has a forest forever that is the size of England and Scotland combined? A forest that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon, a forest that we have kept alive, a forest that we have kept alive.
Does that give you the right? Does that give you the right to release all of this carbon?
Does that give you the right to lecture us on climate change? I am going to lecture you on climate change, because we have kept this forest alive that stores 19.5 gigatons of carbon that you enjoy, that the world enjoy, that you don't pay us for, that you don't value, that you don't see a value in, that the people of Guyana has kept alive. Guess what? We have the lowest deforestation rate in the world. And guess what? Even with our greatest exploration of the oil and gas resource we have now, we will still be net zero. Guyana will still be net zero. With all our exploration, we'll still be net zero.
Powerful words, Mr. President.
I am not completed as yet. I am not finished as yet. I am just not finished as yet. Because this is the hypocrisy that exists in the world. The world in the last 50 years has lost 65% of all its biodiversity. We have kept our biodiversity. Are you valuing it? Are you ready to pay for it? When is the developed world going to pay for it? Or are you in the pockets? Are you in the pockets of those who have damaged the environment? Are you in the pockets, are you and your system in the pockets of those who destroyed the environment through the Industrial Revolution and now lecturing us? Are you in their pockets? Are you paid by them? Are you paid to keep their message alive? There is no hypocrisy in our position.
This is just brilliant. Brilliant. And you know what? I mean, this should be an eye-opener for the BBC presenters who appear to conduct these kind of interviews, from sitting on high horse. I think they need to realize that gone are the days when they can go and preach, the morality and democracy and various other things, around the world. I think people are fast realizing. And the Gaza conflict has acted as an eye-opener for the countries around the world. You saw how India reacted to American interference in their democracy or in their political matters. You know how Guyana reacted the other day. The countries are now realizing that, look, enough is enough. And the countries like, so-called Western powers need to be taught a lesson. You saw how a Malaysian Prime Minister reacted in the presence of German Chancellor. He was in Germany and he was asked a question And he minced no words. He decided to embarrass the Western countries, including Germany, on the issue of Gaza. Then and there, we did the story. You can see that on top. So people are realizing. You saw how Singapore government reacted when Israeli ambassador, decided to indulge in cheap propaganda or dangerous propaganda. So I think this is a really good sign that the countries, regardless of their size, regardless of their wealth, they have decided to call spade a spade. They have decided to embarrass these so-called superpowers. And that is the need of the hour. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.